What's up, y'all? It's your boy Mike, Esco Elite Fitness and Esco Elite Mindset. But before we get started, I'd like you to subscribe, comment, and don't forget. And if you're enjoying this show, refer me to your friends and family. Let's grow this together, guys. What are we talking about today, babe?
Me?
Oh, and my lovely wife, my co-host, Janine Escobar.
What are we talking about? It's your show.
I don't know. You said we had a topic that we're going to talk about today.
I did actually. So I wanted to come on here, even though the comments that have been left have been over on my channel, which if you guys are not aware, I have a channel and we have a podcast called Candidly with Coffee over on my channel. But we were talking on our episode, our podcast about emotions and men and what happens to men in their 40s. And
that's true.
We were having a conversation and there was some clips going around YouTube. And what I wanted to talk about was this particular comment from Johnny Caralta. And he says, it's not about men not crying at all. It's about there being a time, a place, and a reason. Men shouldn't be crying because they feel stressed or because they got hurt. Crying should be reserved for extreme situations. A loved one dying, a child suffering, a betrayal. The point is, crying over petty things isn't what men should do. You can't be the backbone if you're soft and fragile. Now, you actually agree with a lot of that?
Yeah. For sure.
Because obviously you're not saying, yeah, cry.
No, not at all. Not like that. No, hell no. You better have a good reason for crying. Like I always say, death of a family member, definitely death of our animals. Can't help myself. We're softies for animals. Mm-hmm. I have empathy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Why do you think it's important for men to cry?
I feel like they need to release before they explode and let it out in the wrong way. They need to talk about their feelings. Men need to really talk about how they're feeling. Let somebody know how you're feeling.
It doesn't mean that you're not masculine if you cry. Now, somebody else commented on the video, and I didn't actually agree at all with her. She commented on his comment, and she says, nope, men shouldn't cry. Stop pushing this narrative. Weak men create weak men. This is why men these days aren't getting laid, married, and living in their parents' basement because they kept crying, and now they are weak.
She got it all wrong.
Yeah, it's actually men. You can't say men shouldn't cry. And let me explain to you what happens to men that don't cry. That's emotion that they are not expressing. Yes. And that emotion comes out in rage. It comes out in violence of some sort. So emotion that's not processed, it doesn't matter what it is for anybody, men, women, children, becomes trauma. Yep. It has to be expressed. You have to go through emotion in some capacity. So to say men shouldn't cry is reckless, in my opinion. Reckless.
Again, it's going to come out one way or another. Which way you want it to come out, it's totally up to that person.
Yeah. I just thought it was an interesting conversation to have. And it's important to know, unexpressed emotions will never die. They are buried alive and will come forth later in uglier ways. That is a quote attributed to Freud. We know that unexpressed emotions don't die because otherwise people's traumas would simply recover and live contented, fulfilled lives. Instead, we know this is not the case. Trauma gets stuck. And until you process trauma, it rears its ugly head, which is why we have a mental health epidemic, especially amongst men. And why are men suffering from the highest suicide rate and all of that? It's because comments like that.
Yes.
Men shouldn't cry because it's those unexpressed emotions. It's men committing a lot of the violent crimes.
Exactly.
That's unexpressed emotions.
And who do we take it out on mainly? The ones closest to us. You guys.
Yeah.
A lot of times.
So I think the first comment was pretty well said. I do agree that, I don't think men should be crying all the time. I think women are more emotional than men, and men should be crying if they lost a sock or something like that.
Exactly.
Because I'm a believer. I'm not one of those feminist chicks or whatever that feel like men shouldn't be men. I personally have the right to feel this way. I feel that men should lead the family. They should be the protector and keep us safe. I do feel that there is a role for men and women. I personally like the gender role of men, but I also feel that men need to learn how to process emotion so it doesn't manifest itself into mental health, depression, violence.
Because I've used, when I was a young boy, I remember, right before every time I get into a fight, for whatever reason, I get emotional. Sometimes I cry. And let me tell you, after that little cry, rage came out of me. Like blind rage. I know I have that in me.
So that was emotion. See?
Yes.
Is anger. That's what I realized. I remember there was a time that we were on an airplane and it was very bad turbulence. And you got angry at the guy that was like falling in the aisleway. You got really angry. And I realized after that, because you were anxious about the bad turbulence.
Oh, and they told everybody, sit down, and this dummy's walking the aisles. He's almost falling everywhere. Like, he's coming close to us.
And you just lost it.
Yeah, and I'm like, dude, listen to the instructions. Like, he's going to fall on one of us.
But I could tell, what I realized in that moment, I'm like, he's scared. Because you didn't say, I'm scared of turbulence. But that's how you expressed your kind of fear in the moment.
I used to get nervous of turbulence. And then after us flying for so many times back and forth to Vegas, it didn't bother me. It didn't scare me like it used to. But I used to have a fear of flying. No doubt. And a little turbulence.
Yeah, but do you know what I mean? I'm just more in tune with how you express emotion because we've been through so much. I know when you're angry, I know when it's because of you're anxious and not. I just thought it was I wanted to address it because I thought we had a lot of comments about people, whether their opinion of whether men should cry or not cry. But I think it's crazy to say a blanket statement that nope, men shouldn't cry.
And I always say this, because I went through my mental health crisis and I was down for a bit. Don't get it twisted. Don't put me in a room with you and find out. I'm built that way. I can have an emotional moment, but I can also have a fit of rage. I can go both ways. Don't look at us like we're weak. I think people underestimate us because we cry. Oh, he's weak. No. There's a lot of fighters who cry after they win their victory because of the grind, the sacrifice that fighter went through, and to finally be over, like, wow, the pressure's off and I won. The fight's over. This was a lot leading up to this fight. That's why you see a lot of guys crying and celebrate release. You see it a lot. It's very common in fighters. And they're not weak people. Go step in there with them and find out.
But that's what emotion is. Emotion is a release. And if it's released, it's processed.
You see them.
Think about like grief. When you're dealing with grief, people that don't deal with grief, they push it down. It doesn't go away. So every time the man that doesn't cry, but he wanted to or needed to, you better start wondering, where's that going to manifest? Because it's going to manifest. And it's usually in the form of violence or anger or both. Or depression, anxiety. Yeah.
I had a friend of mine, his mother passed away. It didn't hit him until like years later. It came out like in a fit of rage. He snapped on a family member and then he finally cried. Sometimes it comes out later.
It's tucked away because he pushed it down. Maybe every time it wanted to come up, you get scared. In dealing with the grief of my mom, I remember telling myself, I need to go through it. So when I feel it coming on, I need to just have a moment. I'm going to get through it faster. Not that I'm over my mom's death or anything like that, but I'm going to process it faster if I do that because it's hard. You feel it coming on and you want to distract myself. I want to do something, but I knew I needed to do that. And I think it helped me heal a lot faster. I tried my best to process the grief because I knew I need to process this because you can't get over it. You got to go through it.
That's true.
And I knew that was going to happen. And I knew other people in my family that didn't and still haven't dealt with it. And it's going to rear its ugly head.
A break.
You got to let it out. You got to process it. If you tuck it down, it will manifest itself in some way. Not just for men. I'm not just talking about men. I'm talking about women too. Anyone processing grief, processing trauma, things that happen in your childhood. That's why therapy is beneficial because they're just letting it out. What's the therapist really doing? Not a whole lot.
I know. They're just we're doing talking.
It's a safe place to
without being judged. That's a problem. See, a lot of men are afraid to express their emotions and their feelings. They're afraid of being judged. They're so afraid, and a lot of times they're afraid to even admit it to their wife and their spouse because they don't want to think like, she might think I'm weak or I'm less of a man, but that's not true.
No, it doesn't mean you're weak. It's actually a strong man.
Yeah.
Confident man who can be in touch with his emotions.
Exactly.
You are the epitome of a masculine man. You are very masculine energy. You are a very masculine man who happens to finally be in touch with your emotions. And since you have your rage, your inability to control emotions has gotten so much better.
Yeah, because I didn't understand it when I was younger. I would get emotional, but I'd want to go on attack mode. That's what I knew. I get like that rage. I know I inherited my mother's temper. My mother was a crier, and I'm like, damn, I got that from my mother. I'm a crier like her. This year will be 10 years of an anniversary in August when she passed away. And if I stop and ponder and think about it, I'll start shedding a tear or two, get emotional, thinking about her death all these years later.
Yeah.
So it's something that every once in a while you need a good cry. You need to let it out. It feels good. Because if not, I'm going to let it out in a different way.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It will come out. So if you're kidding yourself, if you think it's not going to come out, if you're perpetuating it and you're telling your boys to be strong, don't cry, you're creating trapped trauma.
Yep.
Every time they choke back the cry, you're creating, and it's going to manifest. It does not go away.
There was a fighter who recently was on a podcast with Theo Vaughn. His name's Sean Strickland, and he has a lot of childhood trauma, and everybody came for him being like, wow, because he broke down and cried because of what his father put him through as a child. He had a lot of trauma. He was so angry, had so much rage that he was picking fights with people on the streets for no reason. He didn't care if he lived or died or went to prison. He had that much rage built inside of him, and fighting saved him. He even went after patched members, being like, people who are in motorcycle gangs, and he knows that's a death sentence. You pick a fight with one of them. Basically doing that, like he knew he just didn't want to be here, or he wanted to be in prison. His head was spinning crazy with emotions. It takes a lot for a man to admit that. Yes, he should let it out. And he cried on the podcast. He was holding back, but yes, you should let it out because there's consequences to that.
Exactly. And so I think for men that are struggling, find a safe place, a safe space where you don't feel like you'll be judged. You become like a safe place for them to share on what you're going through. But it will manifest in other ways. It probably is manifesting in other ways that are detrimental to your happy life.
Yes.
And so don't let people tell you that you're weak.
Nope.
If you cry and it's just emotion. We all have it. Animals have it.
Seen it with our animals.
So find a safe place to express your emotion and start trying to be in tune with your emotion. If you're not crying, ask yourself, where's that emotion going? What am I doing instead of crying?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Better be doing something. You better be channeling in a positive direction, or else it's going to be negative. That's it for the show. Hope you enjoyed it. You got any questions, feel free. I would love responding to you guys. Shoot me a message if you need to. If you need to talk about something, I'm here for Mike's Classics and more.